Gorgeous ones, welcome to the Jaclyn Shaw Show. I have a guest here today that we are going to drop into a conversation. Jen Conkey, welcome. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you here and to dive into this conversation today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here, Jaclyn. I'm excited to kick it off.
Yeah. So we first met seeing each other on stage. That was our real first introduction to each other. Can you tell my audience a bit about you?
Oh, well, I identify as a wealth circulator. My pronouns are cha-ching. One of the things that I really love to do is show people how, we all make money 4 different ways in the world, and what I did is I spent 22 years in the lowest quadrant possible, which was having a job, and that's what 95% of Americans do. Then we decided to go start a business, and then it becomes this hustle, this grind, and one of the things that I think you and I connected on most is how to take that hustle and grind, turn it into a system that creates profits. And then the way that I differentiate in the business world is I help business owners then take those profits and invest them into cash flowing assets. And to me, I feel like it is a massive disservice to the world that financial literacy is not taught in schools. So I took it as my personal mission, especially to help women understand how to grow lasting wealth, not just nouveau riche, but like how to create the next 100 years of legacy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm going to first start by sharing your energy for me when we first connected and the moment, because I shared with you, I don't know, even know if you remember this, but I shared with you that there was like something I wanted to bring to this podcast conversation that's a bit different than typical podcasts, I feel. And so I'm going to start from the beginning. I was speaking on stage at an event, and I was feeling real shaky before I got on the stage. I had just been through a major transition in my life. I often, I'll be honest, don't get nervous going on stage, and I was feeling real shaky behind stage. There was 2 women, like, supporting me, grounding my energy, and I got on stage, and I had this feeling, I was like, just, like, really connect with the room, like, connect with the room, drop in with God, and I looked up and you were sitting right there, and I connected with your energy, and we hadn't met yet, I didn't know you, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Just speak to this woman," and I started speaking to you, and that's how my wobble straightened out. I just started speaking, and you brought in, without even knowing it and without even knowing me, you brought in this energy for me that helped me get into my flow, that helped me get into, like, just speaking my voice and speaking my truth from that stage, and so I've never even shared that with you, but thank you for that, and then I heard you
Absolutely.
on stage, and I came up to you right after I was leaving the event because I was going to run my retreat, and I said to you, you were talking about, 8-figure moves, and I said, "I know I've just made my 8-figure move. I know that something that I've decided this year, it just felt right when I made it. It was my 8-figure move." Then
Yes.
I went and ran my retreat, and I was sitting there in a 3-hour sound healing journey, and your energy came in for me again. And I was like, have this conversation with Jen and have it publicly and have it honestly. The
Right.
conversation around that a lot of women, a lot of entrepreneurs, including myself, I've been very much in the mentality of just make more money and, just make more money and make more money and make more money versus the conversation that I've heard you bring to the table is let your money make more money. Can we
Yes.
talk about
Yes.
that?
Absolutely. Yeah, your money has to be a soldier for you. I know that sounds a little crazy, but you want it to go out and bring back more dollars. So for every dollar that I'm sending out, I want it, if I could, to bring back 10 more, obviously. I want to 10x every dollar that I put out there. And I think what happens is when we first start making money in business, especially very early on, especially if you were the one that bootstrapped it from the ground up, you didn't take any outside capital. That was me. I've done that twice now, building a business with no external capital, no external resources, just you. You're grinding and every decision goes through you. And about the time that you hit that 250 mark, you start thinking, man, what's the point of life if I can't enjoy it? So you start indulging in little things here and there. And I'll tell you, I'll be the first one to tell you, it only takes $27.40 a day, every day in a 365-day period to squander off $10,000. $27.40 a day happens more often than you know. So a lot of people want to make the money, not look at where it's going and not look at how to stack it. And I talk about how should you allocate the money that's coming in a way that you pay yourself your profits, and then you're forced to run the business off of what's left. And a lot of people think that's absolute bonkers. But when you do it that way, you're going to make your business more efficient and more effective because you now have the budget versus let me pay for everything first and then whatever's left over I'll live off of or I might invest. I do it the other way. I'm going to take the profit right off the top. I'm going to put it to work. Then I'm going to figure out how to make the business scale with what I've got left. Because if I can insulate the business through cash flowing assets, now I'm going to be more confident and I'm also going to be more capable because I'm able to run my business with lower output, lower cost. It's going to force me to get creative. And therefore, when you flip the switch like that and start thinking about it differently, you're actually scaling faster than you can possibly imagine. So I know it's really contrarian, but that's how I look at it.
Yeah, and where because what I'm feeling right now is a lot of people will say like, "Okay, sounds great, Jen. When I get this far, when I've made this much money, then I'll think about doing that." And then I feel like what happens, it's like when I hit 6 figures, actually when I hit multiple 6 figures, actually when I hit 7 figures, and it
That
just
the
keeps like, "I'll
goalpost
do it
moves.
when."
Yeah, yeah.
What you're
That
talking about
goalpost
here, when does
moves
that start?
right now. And I'm going to tell you if you just focus small. So if you even started today and said the next amount of money that I receive, I'm going to take 1% of it. I don't care if it's $10,000 and you're going to take 1% of it, you're going to put $100 away. That's it. And you don't touch it. It's $100 into an account. The next $10,000 you get, put $100 into an account. The next 10,000, $100 into the account. Every time you get a new client, a new service that you're providing to somebody, a new event ticket, whatever it might be, take 1% of that right now and put it into an account. So, and you start with 1% for now. Eventually, you might make it to 5%. Eventually, you might make it to 10%, like me. So I will take 10% from the profits. They go directly into an account and I figure out how to manage the business from the rest. That profits account, as soon as it hits 100K, I'm figuring out where can I go put it to work for me. So as soon as it hits $100,000 or $50,000, depending, because as an accredited investor, which basically an accredited investor means you make $250,000 or more a year as a single person, or $300,000 or more a year as a married couple, or you have $1 million of net worth that is excluding your personal residence. As long as you meet those requirements, and you have $50,000 to $100,000 is usually the minimum that you can invest into a secured investment like a multifamily apartment building, mobile home park, oil and gas, something along those lines, which are something that my capital company allocates. Now you've got this profit system where from day one, you're taking 1%, you're putting it in. And as you continue to reduce expenses and increase your top line, then you can go to 2% of everything that you put in, then 3. And you can phase into this to the point where I would say 10% goes into profit every time. And then 10% or 15% is getting paid to you or whatever your salary is for the business. So now you're going from profit to payroll, owner payroll, to then operating. What's the operating budget after that? If you do it backwards like that, I swear to God, not only does it switch something in your sanity, but it makes you realize I'm putting profits first. So then you're focused on how can I make more profit? It's a weird psychology that happens, but it happens. So start early, start now, 1%.
And I feel like I mean, these are conversations I don't hear being had enough, and so it's like, just make more money. Like I said, it's make more money, make more money, make more money, and then figure that out. Then what? So tell us more about the then what. Okay, so now I've got this profits account and there's, 50K there because I know that the conversation, a question a lot of people are going to have is like, but I don't know what to do with that then.
Right. So the first thing that you reach out to me. So that's the
Yes.
first thing. Because there are people that will save their money and they'll leave it in a savings account and it's losing to inflation. So inflation is happening where your dollar, the reduction, especially in US, the US dollar is on a decline. And in order to hedge against inflation, you have to be able to invest it into an investment opportunity that is going to produce more for you than inflation is taking away. So, for example, once you have $50,000 and you're an accredited investor, you're going to look for opportunities where you can park that money into an investment for 5 to 7 years and then get your return back. In some cases, in the oil and gas world, it might be for 18 months to 36 months. So, from 18 months to 3 years. And a lot of times what happens is I will help investors in my world invest into an oil and gas fund. Let's just say Jack came and said, I have 100 grand. And I said, okay, Jack, we're going to put it in this oil and gas fund and it's going to be in there for 3 years. But at the 18-month mark, I'm going to be able to return 40% of your capital, and so you're gonna get some of that cash back while this continues to be in oil and gas for you and until the investment is done. Then now all of a sudden you've got 40 grand back and you're, okay, Jen, what do I do with this 40 grand? Perfect. Get another 10, put it on that 40, and now I've got this apartment deal for you. And then you put that 50 grand now into an apartment deal. So now you've got an oil and gas investment and you've got an apartment building. So let's just say another 2 years, 18 months goes by, the oil and gas investment returns to you fully plus all of your profits. Then you say, okay, now I've got all these profits, Jen. What do I do now? Well, I'll have another investment opportunity. Okay, we have mobile home park, or we have this cannabis manufacturing facility. We're expanding from medicinal to recreational, or we've got, an RV rental business or an Airbnb business, or we do pad splitting, sober housing, all of these different investment opportunities. So you have to be connected with somebody who's in that field and knows whether or not it's a good deal. And I teach you whether or not it's a good deal. So when you work with me, Jack, we say, I got 100K. I say, okay, here's all the opportunities. My first question is, what are your goals? What do you want this money to do for you? What type of return are you looking for? Whatever the highest return you're looking for, if it meets that criteria, and how long can this money be at play, then I'm going to provide you, here's a couple of investment opportunities that you can go and invest your money into. And then I educate you, get you to ask all the questions that might leave a little bit of uncertainty for you. And you start to then learn how to think like an investor. I've been doing this since 2001. I can't transfer all of that knowledge overnight like Neo in the Matrix with that thing in the back of your head. But over the time of you investing and learning and asking questions, we hold your hand. So before you even wire money in, you understand that investment so well. You understand the upside, you understand the downside, you understand what we're going to do to mitigate any downside. And you start to learn about money in a different way, the way that I feel that they should teach you in school.
Yeah, this leads right into, like, right where you said that, the way I feel that they should teach you in school. Like, where does your passion come from within this?
Yeah.
Because I feel it right now. Could feel it when you were on stage. Like, what's the driving energy for you
Mm.
behind? Because I know that obviously there's a driving energy for you to do this for yourself, but in really like teaching others to do this as well.
It really stems from my childhood. So I came from both sides of the railroad track. My first 10 years of life, my parents were married until I was 3. When I was 3, they divorced. My mom, she raised me alone until I was about 10 years old. So from 3 to 10, she was doing the best that she could as a single mom. And we were living in Folsom, which at the time was near the Folsom prison. And it was back in Folsom, California when it was a ghetto. It was not what it is today. You go look at Folsom, California today, it does not look like what it looked like when I was growing up. I was living there when Johnny Cash was drinking the funny yellow water, and it was the wrong side of the tracks. And what I noticed from a kid growing up early from 3 to 10 is what was happening. And there was a behavioral cascade that happens when you believe that you don't have money, you'll never have enough money, and the money's not coming, and you've just got to go work your ass off. So I started figuring out, wow, I could sell these chips to the stoners on the corner. At one time, it was 1984. I was 10 years old and I was walking home from lunch or walking home from school. And my lunch, I had a bag of Doritos. When I pulled it out, this kid that was smoking weed from high school, he's smoking weed on the corner. And he's like, "Hey, little girl, how much for that bag of Doritos?" And back then, I knew it was very illegal, but every adult around me. So I knew what that funny smell meant, that he's going to be hungry. So I said, $5. This is 1984 when the chips were like 35 cents. And he handed me $5. I handed him the chips and I was like, money is easy. And it shifted. Money is easy. All I gotta do it now. Who else is around? You know what? I'm gonna sell this to all the grown-ups because number one, they're too high to realize how much they're spending on these chips, but they want the chips right now. So I learned supply and demand at the age of 10. Then lo and behold, my mom, she lost her job, fell on hard times. So a few months later, after the Doritos, I ended up going and living with my dad. And my dad was making six figures a year. He had an amazing job. He was making amazing salary back in the 80s. So that's a big deal. So now I'm in this, really structured because he's from the army too. So militant and structured, and we had responsibilities, and there was always money, and I didn't get it. And like when I lived with my mom, I was getting my cousin's hand-me-downs. When I lived with my dad, I was getting these chemin de fers, and I didn't even know what that meant, but it meant that they were the best jeans and everything was the best. So as a kid, I saw both sides, and I thought, because there's many times where when I was living with my mom, I was in a car and I was hungry. I took a shower. No, I once at a Chevron had my head in the sink with ice cold water and the pink powdered soap to wash my hair. I know what it's like to have no money. And I also know what it's like to have an abundance of money. So for me, I became absolutely batshit crazy obsessed over the fact that my parents, who both created me, one of them didn't have a relationship with money and did not understand how to make it work for her. My father did. He invested in stocks. He was the one who always told me to get into real estate. His mindset around money was different. Both of them came from parents who survived the Great Depression. Both of them came from parents who shoved money under mattresses. Why is it that my dad had a different mentality? And that question became what I was most hungry to understand. And that's why I got into mindset work and understanding that it's your mind matters and it's your mind over the matter. And what you decide your relationship with money is what it will be. And a lot of people want to avoid it because it's a tough topic. Do I don't want to know how broke I am? That would be painful. That would be embarrassing. There would be shame. There would be guilt. And one of the things that drew me to you, Jack, was that you're like, yeah, I'll sit in those emotions though, and I'll process them and I'll move through it. And that's why you make the money that you do. I had to do the same work. My dad didn't realize that's the work he was doing. My dad was actually working from a chip on his shoulder to prove himself. Doesn't matter. It made it work. It's the leverage or the threshold that we hit that make us behave in certain ways. So I made it my mission to help people see that, man, you're going to hit that threshold sooner or later when the business revenue is going to stop. And when it does, do you want to be standing there holding the paper saying, shit, I have payroll? Or do you want to be able to say, shit, I have payroll. Oh, it's okay because I have this portfolio and it can help me pay my payroll because that happened to me. Right. So it really stemmed from childhood. Then it just stacked as I continued to build businesses and realize that this is real shit.
Yeah. What do you think the biggest thing is? So when people come and they work with you and they're like, "Okay, Jen, here's 50K, here's 100K." What's the resistance that they usually meet themselves with in, like, actually being like, "And I'm gonna let it leave my account and go into the places where you're gonna help them put it." What's the thing that they often have to, like, meet?
The thing that they have to meet 9 times out of 10, the number one question of all time is always, how long will you have my money? And when I hear that question, to me, it's a red flag. I will then return with, how long can you have this money out of your world? And if they're ever I don't know or trepidatious, I won't allow them to invest. I will explain to them, listen, until you know for sure that your world is going to be fine, that you can figure out and get resourceful on this side of running the business, do not release this 100K. Let's try 50 right now. If you just went with 50, and let the other 50 be there in case you need it, you're going to find that you don't, because put it in this account and don't touch it. So they have to get in the habit of putting it into an account and not touching it. That behavior alone that I'm telling you about right now is going to be the first step that will help. Because if you're already in the mindset of, oh no, that's the money I can't touch, by the time it leaves that account to go to work for you, you're no longer longing for it because you already recognize it as the account where that's just where my profits go. And then my profits go to invest. So it's like you have to reassociate the money and the flow of it along the way. And as soon as you do, everything opens up. That's usually the first question. How long? The second biggest thing that gets in their way is the unknown. I've never done this before. I've never done this before. And you're human. I would want you to be afraid of something that you've never done before because that's what's going to protect you. Your reptilian brain saying, hold on a second, is this a freaking T Rex? or am I going to be okay here? Right. That's why we take so much time to educate everybody on what the investment looks like, what they will experience. And then they open up and they start to realize. So we have 70% of our investors, once they invest one time within two distribution checks, they invest a second time. And then the rest of them keep investing over and over. They're just coming in there like, how can I just want to put all my money to work? Because 30% of our investors have a lot of money. So they want it in debt funds. They want it in oil and gas. They want it in multifamily. They want it everywhere. They want it spread out because they've been around the block. So I will tell you, 30% of our investors, they've been doing it for a long time. 70%, not so much. They're all very new. And so we take our time to teach them. And eventually they land up in the 30% because now they're groomed. But the biggest two are, God, how long can I be without this money? And what's going to happen? What's the worst that could happen? Because I need to know about it. And it
Yeah.
really is just the clarity that they need.
And that question, okay, let's go back to the first question. So like the how long, the like how long can I be without this money? Because I feel like there's like, I mean, I don't know. For me, it feels like there's like nuance in this conversation, but maybe for you, it's like, no, it just like is this. But I feel like it's like meeting people also with like, but what if something happens? What if I need that money? What if the do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they do. Everybody does that. What if this happens? What if all of a sudden my business tanks and then I don't have that money? Well, I would like to tell you that the money is just at work for you. And I try to open up a new world. It's not that you are without this money. Treat it like it's an employee and it's off creating new business for you. Or it's a new business manager off creating new business for you. It's not untouchable forever. It's untouchable for 3 to 5 years, sometimes 5 to 7 years. Or for those that invested in our motel, 30 years. So I have varying levels of investment based on what type of investor I'm dealing with or wants to invest and based on their goals. So a lot of people, what if this happens? What if it doesn't? Right? What if it happens 3 years from now? And what if you didn't have that money? What if you didn't get resourceful enough? When was the last time you didn't get resourceful enough about something? I'll ask that question. They usually can't find one. When was the last time you were in such a dire emergency? And what it comes down to is people don't want to disrupt the comfort. They want the comfort of having that there. And I understand that, but you have to reassign the comfort. Being in this account is no different than being over here actually earning money. Because being in this account, I'm actually losing money. You're losing 3 to 5% due to inflation by it just sitting there. So instead of letting it just sit there so that you could feel comfortable, you're actually going broke slowly by letting that happen. If you take that discomfort, put it in and recognize I am resourceful. And if anything else comes up, I can handle that. This money is actually being put to good use and it's returning money to me. So it's an asset. Leaving it in a savings account is a liability because you're
Mm.
paying for it to sit in that savings account versus having it in an investment that pays you. So I like to use that opportunity to explain the difference between an asset and a liability. 'Cause a lot of people don't understand it at the level that they should, because again, they don't teach that in schools. For example, your house, your personal residence, if you bought it, it's not an asset, it's a liability because it requires you to pay for it. If you bought it and someone else was living in it, renting it, and they were paying you to live there, now it's an asset. I like to buy assets that pay for my liabilities. So I rent my personal residence. I do not buy it. I rent it. And that disrupts people's minds like "Pfft." So I will just shift your perspective on putting it into an account means it's a liability because it's sitting there and you're losing to interest on it. You're losing to inflation on it. You're not gaining any interest. And it's a liability unless you move it into an asset that produces income for you. So I like to change the identity of who you are as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, to look at assets versus liabilities and ask yourself the question of when I'm putting money out, will money be coming back to me or will it not? If I put this money out, do I then have to pay more out in order to keep it? And if so, it's not an asset, that's a liability. And my strategy in life and how I've been able to do this is I will then take my active income to buy assets that pay for liabilities. When you do that, you'll have an asset. I bought a rental property for every bill that I had. That was my first step. Then you don't have to worry about it. But a lot of people, the mindset is, I just got to hold it. And unfortunately, we're wired to want to stay in comfort because we'll do anything to avoid the pain of the unknown. and you just have to rewire that belief about the unknown.
One thing that I wanna also dive into here, because I feel like this is so fascinating that it doesn't shift at the levels. Like you said, like, you work with people that are, 6 figures, 7 figures, 8-figure business owners, and if we don't, like, disrupt patterns, they just continue. So it's like if it's, like, this clenching and it's only safe if
Yeah,
it's known to me, like, break through that now because you're gonna be met with yourself at that same feeling again and again and again and again. And when I talk about like evidence, it's like, okay, I don't want to bring like the past evidence into the now because I get to create from the now. But then there's times where I love to collect evidence that's gonna serve me. So collecting evidence in the sense of maybe you haven't done this thing that feels so scary and unknown before, but it's like you have all this evidence now stacked of you've done something that was unknown to you. You've done the scary thing. You've been able to walk with that fear. You've been able to walk with the unknown, and look what happened.
absolutely. Absolutely. And there's 4 steps to mastering a new thing anyways, and all 4 steps are based on the fact that you've already mastered harder shit than this. So I love that. Like,
Yeah.
you think about it, we're all on a quest to mastery in a particular area of life. For you, you know exactly what you're doing and the transformation that you've created for people, and you've mastered that, and therefore, you've been able to monetize it. I have mastered the art of investing into cash flowing assets, income producing assets. I have mastered the ability to teach people how to look at it differently. The people that I'm teaching to look at it differently are starting to master how they look at investments. And once you, like in the beginning, you're unaware, right? You have an unconscious incompetence. You're not even aware that you suck at it. Then all of a sudden someone opens the door and says, "Oh, but you should be doing this," kind of like I'm doing right now. So now you are consciously incompetent. You consciously know that you're not doing something that you should be doing, but you don't know how to do it. So now the curiosity opens up. Then when you become consciously competent is when you start doing the reps. Okay, Jen said take 1% of my profit and put it in an account. I'm just going to start doing that. As you start doing that, you're becoming consciously competent in the behavior that's going to get you there. And then through mastery, through repetition of doing that, all of a sudden you become unconsciously competent, where it's like you don't have to think about it anymore. A client pays you, you get 50 grand when you put literally, you take that 50 grand. Okay, I'm going to take my 500 bucks. I'm going to put it in there. Done. It's on autopilot. And then you're going to realize, okay, I have 50K in there now. I'm going to be able to invest that somewhere. That's the process of mastery. It's doing it over and over until it becomes your new normal.
And doing it, like you said before, like today, doing it right now, because I can still feel this like energy for a lot of people. It's gonna be like, and the delay, and hesitate, and tomorrow.
Yeah. That delay, it comes from lack of faith in being able to produce it again. And so that's where that deep work needs to happen. If I won't invest it because I'm afraid to let go of what I've already got in order to go create something new. So the delay happens psychologically when it's like, "Oh, I've worked so hard to already get this. I don't want to lose this." And so we white knuckle it, not realizing we're already losing 3% off the top. So if I have 100 grand in a bank account, inflation's making it $97,000 worth of buying power right off the top. It might even be more right now. So we're already losing, but because we can't see that we're losing, we don't feel that we're losing. And when we see that we transfer it somewhere else and now that account is zero, well, now we see that we've lost it. It's a perceived loss, but it's not a real loss. And it takes a bit of time, like maybe 90 days before you get a distribution on the money that you invested. But the moment you get that distribution is the moment that I've seen with I have over 900 clients. They're investors and they go, "Oh, this is cool. Hey, when's your next one?" Because they got the distribution in their hand. So now they know it's going to happen and they know it's the known. But for
Mm.
that first 90 days, it's the unknown. So it feels like they're in a game of double dutch jump rope. Like, do I jump in? Do I jump out? Do I turn around? What do I do? And guiding them through that new behavior that you want to recondition in yourself to be an investor, a wealth circulator, not somebody who just makes a bunch of money, reinvested into the business, and eventually the lifespan of a business literally is not as long as you think. Some brands often they phase out after 5 years, 6 years max, before you have to do some sort of other thing, right? Unless you're Tony frickin' Robbins, who's, he's done what? Unleash the Power Within for 40 years. but his brand is so strong that it has survived the test of time. He's also in a market, self-actualization, self-development, that will never go away, right? So
Mm.
oftentimes we have to ask ourselves the question of what business am I in? Okay, what business am I really in? And how do I create that? And we always have to reinvent the business probably every 5 years. And when I say reinvent, I don't mean reinvent everything, but we need to make something fresh. We need to do a facelift or a new thing to bring in because you as a person have grown. You have evolved, which means your brand has evolved, which means the ideal client that you're going for has evolved. And if you don't make that evolution, you're going to miss it. And that's where people find themselves going, shit, I wish I would have given Jen that 100 grand and invested back then when I was making it and it was raking in. That's the biggest difference is I told my son he's a stove toucher because you tell him not to touch the stove. What does he do? He touches the stove because he had to learn for himself. A lot of people have to learn for themselves. They're stove touchers.
Yeah. Yeah. And this piece here, like this is present in the work that I do as well in a different way, but similar. It's that like that willingness to put yourself in the realm of the unknown. If you're not willing, like we can say, I want change and I want this experience
Right.
and I have this goal. Well, it's gonna take you going into a land where it is uncertain, where it is unknown, because if not, if you're staying in the realm of certainty, there's no growth there.
Right. So true. There is zero growth there. When we live on the edge of creating, that's where the beauty is. And the past is not even a thing. You know that one experience that they did, it was an experiment with, the electron gun? They had an electron gun and they shot it through these 2 slits and they operated as a wave, but then the moment they put a camera there to observe, to see
Mm,
how are they going through these then it acted as a particle once it was observed. So it really goes to show that the moment where you focus is what's going to be molded. It was where your focus goes is where energy flows. Now, I like to take the focus off of some things and become that wave that then becomes a magnet for some items. Then I like to look at where am I focused? Am I focused on the past and all of the reasons why I think this won't happen? Or am I focused on the past and all of the ways that I've already shown that I can do this? And that is the delineation that a lot of people don't look at. They look at the past and they look at all the evidence stacked that's not in their favor. And I would invite you to look at that evidence is stacked in your favor because you're the badass that created where you are right now. You can only go further. And the only thing we have is that true present moment to make that choice.
so true. So true.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that we've had this conversation, that you have been willing to like dive in and share your genius and your wisdom with us. Anything that you'd like to leave us with?
Just make sure, no matter what, at the end of the day, you have to live with you for the rest of your life. So if you say, I'm going to go build that business and I'm going to make it profitable, make sure you're investing the profits. Make sure you're keeping track of the profits. Profits first. I just really wanted to make sure that that lands with everybody because at the end of the day, the end of the business, you want to build something that outlives you.
So good. Thank you so much. And we'll share all your information and your details and how
Yeah.
people can come find you and work with you and get in on this magic with you below. So thank you. Thank you for your time and your wisdom and everything that you're doing to bring these conversations forward. Because for me, I feel like these are conversations that, to be honest, for a long time, I didn't even know people were having.
Right. Yeah. And you're not the only one. So
Yeah.
thank you for letting me come on the show and share this message.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Amazing.